these are the legal obligations of an organization, of schools as a controller under the law. Okay, you need to protect. This is actually the very heart of data privacy law. You have to protect information against accidental or unlawful destruction, alteration, disclosure, or any other unlawful processing. And there's also a need to respect the rights of the data subjects. And you need to adopt physical, technical, and organizational security measures. Okay, so we'll discuss that, no? So when you talk about organizational security measures, it means three things, okay? You have to appoint, as I mentioned earlier, your data protection officer or data privacy officer and your compliance officers. These are the people within the organization that are accountable for ensuring compliance with data privacy law, and that the security measures that needs to be adopted be in place. And of course, you have to have protection, your data protection policies, no? Policies on how to collect data, policies on posting privacy notices, okay? Policies on employees should be using data, limiting access to data, okay? And of course, respecting the rights, no, of the data subject, meaning if there's a student who wants to access the data, his data, wants to see his data, there has to be policies and procedures for that. And data privacy awareness trainings, because you know, many 80%, 90% of the breaches occur because of human error. Okay, so every year, or once a year, even twice a year, you need to be training employees on the handling of personal data. Okay, so example of trainings that you may launch, no? You need to train educators and staff to be privacy conscious, no? From the very beginning, from the very onset, the privacy by design. Okay, schools have that privacy by design, that you are conscious about privacy rights, no? When you teach, when the teachers teach, and not discussing, teaching your employees or your teachers not to discuss about a student in the corridors, no? Or common areas, okay? Because some other student might hear them. And have closed door meeting rooms where you can discuss sensitive information or personal information about a child, about a student. And during staff meetings, discuss children's issues with anonymity. Okay, be conscious if the other teacher or the other member or other members of the staff meeting doesn't need to know the identity of the child, then there's no need to disclose it. Okay, disclose the identity when you know that teacher needs to know the child, because the child is in his class, and with that knowledge he can actually protect the interest or promote the interest of the child. Now, next is physical security. Now, physical security is actually, where are those records of students? Is it in a secure room? Okay, can just anybody get into that room and steal records? Okay, these are physical security measures, and there has to be some spaces, privacy spaces within the school, that meaning unauthorized personnel shouldn't enter. Okay, for example, a registrar's office, because it contains a lot of personal information. Human resources, that office has to be secure. Only employees who are part of that team should enter these premises. Okay, and when you, of course, another physical security is, when you need to destroy paper files containing a lot of personal information, shred it. Okay. And then records and file security. Okay, you have to have records management policy. Why is that? So because under the data privacy law, you're also required not to lose files. Okay, so as much as possible, have a digital version, okay, instead of physical records. Now that a lot of people are working from home, so it would really be imprudent, okay, to be bringing all these paper files to my house, okay, and process it in my house, because your house doesn't have a room there that is secure, that is under lock and key, unlike in a school environment. So you could easily lose files at home, So have a digital version of that, of these records. And as I mentioned earlier, retention policy. You discuss it among yourselves. How long are we going to be retaining our student records? Of course, there's a law that mandates a period of retention. Well, you have to follow that. Okay? And then when you talk about technical security, these are safeguards to protect computer network against accidental, unlawful, or unauthorized usage. Okay, so we've seen, no? FEU, PUP, Sanbeda, their student portals were hacked and they were investigated and they were asked by the Privacy Commission to really secure their portals to avoid breach. And now that we're using Zoom or online teaching, so please find a platform that is also secure. No, I'm aware of Zoom. I'm not promoting Zoom, but then, Zoom is now GSM encrypted because of the incident. Okay, because of this one incident wherein they were hacked. And now they require meeting IDs and passwords precisely because of that incident. So I know that Zoom is secure compared to other video conferencing platforms. Okay, and if you use video conferencing platforms, make sure that you look at their technical specs, that it should pass your privacy and security standards, set your meeting private by default. Do not reveal meeting IDs in public domains, and teachers should be taught, okay, to send a meeting ID and password, before their students can join. It's actually to secure their discussions or their classes online. And careful control screen sharing and recording, and avoid transferring files while using these platforms. And emails, okay, so a lot, I'm in my years of practice in data privacy law, many of the breaches occur because of emails. Okay, so the data, NPC, actually requires that emails or files sent through emails should be encrypted. But encryption, I know, is very, very expensive. Some small organizations, who doesn't have that budget. I just really try to train the employees to ensure that personnel always use the proper 2CCC and BCC fields, to avoid sending to wrong recipients or needlessly expose other people's email addresses to all recipients. So be careful, because sometimes it's automated, like you just type E and then the one in the memory of the email field, okay, it pops up and you don't check it, and and then you are sending a personal information, a sensitive personal information about the person. So you have to be careful. Now, of course, I don't want to scare you, but this is reality. It's under the law. These are the punishable acts. Okay, and the data privacy law is not just any law; it's a criminal law. Why? Because somebody will be in prison. Okay, and the jail terms are amazing. And you know what? The National Privacy Commission right now wants to redraft and revise the privacy law in order to be in line with the UK's GDPR. And the General Data Protection Regulation of the UK, they have, stiffer penalties, and the damages are far, far higher. Okay, so these are the penalties now when you don't follow the data, you do not comply with data privacy law. However, okay, in order for you to avoid this, okay, there are minimum standards of compliance under the data privacy law. First is mandatory registration with the National Privacy Commission. Sometimes it's funny, some people would ask me like, attorney, we don't want to register because, we might be under the radar of National Privacy Commission and we really cannot comply. You have very limited budget. No, register. No, register. Why is that? Because once you appoint your DPO and his email credentials, his contact information is in the registry of the National Privacy Commission, he will receive a lot of emails inviting him to conferences, trainings that are all free. Okay, the Privacy Commission is actually helping a lot of DPOs to be compliant, helping their organization to be compliant. And appointment of a data privacy officer is mandatory under the law. I'm not saying that, whenever we want to register, it's mandated, especially schools, because schools are processing the data of children, especially if it's a minor, because a minor is considered a vulnerable subject under data privacy law, and registration of these organizations who are collecting information of minors is mandatory. And then, of course, you need to draft your privacy notices and consent forms. And, the National Privacy Commission has a book, has a toolkit. It has templates of privacy notices. So you can actually use it once you've registered with the commission. Now, you cannot get all these materials unless you're registered. Policies and procedures in the processing of data, okay, vulnerability assessments of your computer networks, regular monitoring of breaches, and of course, confidentiality measures covering personnel. For example, registrars, HR, I would always highly recommend that they sign non-disclosure agreements, because these people are handling and processing a lot of sensitive information. And due notification of breaches in accordance with the guidelines of the commission. There is a guideline by the commission where you need to inform them in case of breaches, especially if the information that was breached has a potential for identity theft. Okay, so these are the minimum standards, and if you comply with all these, you'll be good to go with your compliance with data privacy law, and you will be able now to create that safe space, okay, within a school environment. And I really believe that schools should be a place where a child thinks and feels that he is safe, and in order to do that is a child should know that his privacy is being protected by the teachers and by the schools, because these institutions are supposed to protect and promote his interests. That's all. Thank you, Mike.
Attorney Yen, thank you so much for giving such a practical look at data privacy. These are things that we just don't normally think about in the course of our daily, life, in our interactions at work. We obviously everyone is transitioning online, and then plus you have all of these free software that's coming out. You also have, kids who are using their applications like TikTok and Face app and all of these. And someone mentioned a while ago, they're thankful for Facebook. They're thankful for, for all these other social media sites. And so I think we just need to be mindful of everyone's personal privacy and security, those that we work with, those who we are responsible for, even of our own privacy and security. Like I remember we were chatting before, and you were advising us not to upload in real time, sa Facebook, sa Instagram, yung lahat ng mga nangyayari sa atin, no? So again, these are things, and 30 minutes is really not enough to learn all of these things. But we're grateful to give us like a glimpse into this complicated world. And so the reason why we're doing this, the reason why we invited you, was really to inform them that this is a reality. This is something that they need to consider. This is something that they need to go to their administrators, their principals, the owners of the schools, and ask, ma'am, sir, what are we doing about this? Do we have a system in place? Is there something that will happen if ever meron pong breach of data? So I just hope that we were able to motivate some people to start asking these questions tomorrow.
Yes, yes, Mike. A lot of organizations, are actually scared, in complying. But no, the Privacy Commission has been helping a lot of organizations in complying. Although sometimes it's very technical. It's very technical, but you just need somebody to explain the law to you in very, 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 very simple terms, no, and it can be simplified, no, and that's the job of the privacy commissions. They are actually training, they have free trainings for anyone who are interested, no, in complying with the law.
Right. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you, Attorney Ann. So for our third and final talk, I'm sure there are those of you here tonight whose work includes interacting with parents on a daily basis. So we know that you need to set meetings with them. Minsan yung ibang parents nagsa-surprise visit, no, alam natin yan. And maybe some of you feel scared dealing with parents. Maybe some of you don't like dealing with parents. I mean, I obviously think that there are a lot of benefits if you involve parents in schools. In fact, there are so many new research articles coming out of educators and social scientists who are advocating the benefits of family engagement. And so our next speaker is going to explain the how and the why, because we believe that safe spaces engage parent partners. Our final speaker is the directress of Young Creative Minds Preschool. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology cum laude from Wellesley College in Boston. She received her master's degree in education from the Harvard Graduate School of Education. She is also the president of Embrace Autism Philippines, an advocate of the Sunrise program from the well-known autism expert, Mr. Ron Kaufman. Please give a Zoom clap for Michelle Lichauco-Tambunting.
Hello there, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, thank you very much, Mikey, for that introduction. And thank you to the two previous speakers. I learned so much. I especially enjoyed Coach Kimmy. I really needed that today. So, hi, everybody. As Mikey mentioned, I'm Michelle. I'm actually Teacher Michelle, but my most important designation for the time being is being Teacher Mama. So I'd like to thank Creo for inviting me today. Preparing for this talk has really helped me reflect about my practice and about my experiences the past couple of months in lockdown. Or in quarantine. It has really shaped my new views and my new philosophy, both as a parent, as a teacher, and as an administrator in a school. So if we can move on to the next slide, Teacher Mikey. Okay, so I'd like you guys to participate in this. So based on the slide that you see, I would like you to, in the chat button, please, in the chat function of the webinar, to please tell me when you hear the word safe, what does it mean to you? And I'm talking here about not exactly about being physically safe, because I'd like to know that all of you listening to the webinar tonight are home safe, but what does it mean to you to feel emotionally safe? Peaceful, I like that. I love that. Relaxed, peace and security, respect, nurturing. Ang bilis nyo naman, calm, chillax, secured. Buti na lang nag-speed reading ako nung bata ako. Comfortable, protected, cared a lot. Feeling like you're home, wholesome and calm. Like the voice of Coach Kimmy, I want to record it. Stress-free, harmonious. Less noise outside of the house. Comfortable, secured, protected. Free, I like that. Loved, well taken care of. Free from any threat. Happy. Psalm 91. Wow, I wish I memorized what Psalm 91 was, but I promise you po, I will look at it later. From the children's perspective, safe means being able to explore without being judged. I like that. And learning without fear of rejection if one makes mistakes. I really like that. Free from danger, open and vulnerable, cannot be harmed, joy, protected. Candid, I like that. Peace and restful, open and vulnerable, I like that, vulnerable. Free to express oneself, secured. Actually, I really love my students, even though I'm just a student teacher. I think student teachers are the best, Arliza Blazo. You make our life in school so much easier, and we learn from you as well. Being with the right people, harmless. Being with the protons, the positive people, right? So, okay. Thank you very much for participating in that interactive chat. On to the next slide, please. Okay, so the word safe that I just asked you all to explore today is really a very important word for me, especially now during quarantine. Not only did I feel the need and the pressure to keep our students safe in school, but the teachers as well, the students, the teachers, the families, our employees at the school. But as a teacher mama and as a mama at home, it was very important for me to make sure that my family was safe. So all of you here, all 194 participants come from all over the Philippines, and you all come from all different walks of life, or from all different experiences, different kinds of families. You all have your own duties apart from being a teacher or an administrator. So looking back now, when I reflect, I realize that I have learned to adapt. We all have learned to adapt so well the past couple of months. We are less fearful. I think I'm less fearful than when the lockdown began, because the situation is no longer so new or foreign to us. We have been given the blessing of time. I think the past 3 months have given us time enough to adapt and find our balance. So here we are today, and I am happy to share with you my experiences that you'll see in the next couple of slides that will show you how, as a teacher mama, I have learned to create and find and appreciate emotionally safe classrooms. What makes an emotionally safe classroom? Because we do not have our physical classrooms anymore. May we go back to the previous slide, please, Mike? Emotionally safe classrooms would be places where children feel accepted, where children feel heard, where children feel supported, connected, respected, and loved. Okay, on to the next slide. So safe spaces while distance learning. COVID-19 really took us all by surprise, and many of us educators were caught off guard. We had to learn everything as quickly as we could. For all this to work, our task as educators is to be able to engage families, to participate in the process. And engagement can only happen if students and families feel safe. As an early childhood educator, the challenge for me in my mid-40s was to push myself and to embrace technology, not anymore as a foe, but as a friend. As an administrator, the challenge was to help our teachers equip themselves with the skills necessary, but making sure to keep in mind that there were other challenges that our teachers were facing. They were daughters, sons, not husbands or wives yet because they're quite young, but they also were going through their own experiences with the quarantine. So if in the past, as an administrator, I would look at that, this time during the lockdown, I think it really pushed me and my partner as administrators to look into our experiences personally, but also to look at the experiences of our teachers apart from their professional life. Because we did realize, and we did see it during the past couple of months, that it really affected your practice as a teacher. So as a mother working from home and homeschooling my boys, the challenge was to make them feel comfortable and safe, to provide consistency in a caring and nurturing environment, because each of my two boys were really experiencing the quarantine quite differently. I have two sons, and one is 13 and the other one is 9. So very different personalities. My younger son is blessed with autism. So their experience of homeschooling and their experiences of the quarantine were worlds apart. It is very easy to fall into the trap of perfection or striving to be perfect. Especially, I think, growing older as a teacher mama, it has been a challenge for me to veer away from trying to be perfect, because I used to think when I was a younger mother that because I'm a teacher and a mom, I needed to have everything figured out. But surprise, surprise, I don't have everything figured out. So really, to fall into that trap of trying to be perfect, many times I realize that I feel so much is expected of me. And maybe some of you out there feel that as well, that as an administrator, I need to have all the answers. I need to be able to know what to do right away. Humanizing administration was necessary so that the teachers also felt that it was okay to express their fears and their apprehensions. When you humanize admin and you humanize people, and you humanize where you are as a leader of any endeavor or of any group, I think you give your members or your teachers the space to also be human, to also acknowledge that they are having a hard time. So it's easier to do this, to be authentic with each other. And that was one of my biggest learnings the past couple of months. So based on our learning journey the past few months, these are the factors I have found that contribute to safe spaces for everyone while distance learning. So everything that I've poured into these slides are really, for me, tried and tested. They don't come from books, they don't come from theory, they come from practice, a whole load of practice the past couple of months to really figure out where we are as teachers, where I am as a mother, where my children are as students, and trying to put this all together to make the experience something that contributes to our well-being. So distance learning does not just involve what you see in the photo on the slide. When you look at the slide, what do you see? You see a child in front of her device, comfortably seated and absorbing information, right? A child in front of the device doesn't just make the whole distance learning process. Now, learning involves our whole village and everyone at home. So it's everyone behind that child, it's everyone in the same room, in the same home, but it also involves whoever is on the other end of that device, meaning that teacher who is seated in front of her laptop, who has spent hours the night before and the days before trying to create engaging online experiences and learning opportunities for the child in this new way and trying to deliver it in a new way that they've never had to do it before. So can you imagine what it all entails? We do triple the work now from home, where we need to consciously switch in and out of being teacher and all the other roles that we have at home. So work from home, honestly, work from home isn't as ideal as I thought it was. I always told myself, I'd like to be able to work from home so that I can spend more time with my kids. I see some answers, some comments now in the chat box, how very true. Humanizing everyone, you like that. It's true, because I think working from home has really humanized my experience as a parent and as a teacher. It's triple the load, yes. Judith Aguilar just said, yes, Judith, sometimes I feel it's quadruple the load, because even if I tell myself that I will switch off at a certain time, because I'm home, sometimes I give myself the license to work overtime because I'm home. So see, these are the safe spaces that we need to be talking about, that we need to have conversations about, because these are the safe spaces, not just for our children, but for ourselves as teachers, as parents, that we need to create so that we can last this whole year. So safe spaces would be consistent, orderly, and predictable. They would inspire connection. Safe spaces are places where we are heard, we are supported, we are accepted and included, and we are loved. So really, holistic education has taken on a different meaning in my mind now. Holistic education, when you say it for me, it means educating the whole village. And when I say the whole village, it's everybody who are stakeholders in the child's education. That would be me, That would be you, that would be the parent, that would be the grandparent, that would probably be the caregiver in bigger extended families, that would be the manongs or the kuyas and the ates who are with the child at home. So everyone has a stake now in the child's education. And the sooner we create safe spaces, the easier it will be for us to engage all of them to join us on this journey. So the first, can we move on to the next slide? So consistent, orderly, and predictable. As teachers, I always tell our teachers, please put yourselves in the shoes of your parents. See, these are three things: consistent, orderly, and predictable. These are the three things I needed to ensure for our home if I wanted us to all get through the pandemic in one piece. Preparation was key. So for me, it was very important that as an educator, I prepared my space for teaching, but at the same time, I also prepared the space for my sons for learning. So, you know, I was on two ends of the spectrum every single day. I always remind our teachers to put themselves in the shoes of a parent. Perspective taking is the most important skill to learn and to nurture in ourselves now. Being reflective as teachers, as parents, being reflective as humans, period. I think that's the biggest lesson that the pandemic should be teaching us now. Keep it simple. Again, keep it simple. Today I told Mikey, Mike, I only have 12 slides because I will try to model today keeping it simple. Keep your lesson simple, keep your slides simple, keep your explanation simple, be direct. Because it is so much easier to go on this learning journey and create safe spaces when we keep it simple. Routine is so important. Put yourself in the shoes of a parent, set clear instructions, help them set solid routines. Learning spaces are crucial. Learning to learn is important. And make sure that this is not just something you deliver to your students, but first and foremost, it's something that you should be inspiring in your staff if you are an administrator or a teacher. Routine is so important when we are all trying to cope with uncertainty. As a mother and as an educator, I always knew that routine, di ba we always say, routine is, I like that, keep it simple and short. KISS. Thank you very much, Kerwin. Keep it simple. So now, let's take away that word when we end the webinar tonight, right? KISS. Keep it simple and short. Okay. So, like I was saying, routine, we always said children need routine, children need to follow a routine. We always knew that as educators. But my biggest learning the past couple of months was I needed the routine. I needed to teach myself to follow a certain routine as a parent because it was the only way I was going to survive working from home, teaching from home, and homeschooling my children. So in creating learning programs, I implore you and I beg all of you to please always look and put yourselves into the shoes of your parents, the parents of your children. It's very important. It is not always obvious also for parents to follow all of this that's on the slide, to set clear instructions, to hold routines, to create the learning space. So I would spend maybe the first month of the coming school year just focusing on that. And I promise you that if you did, your life as a teacher would become much easier. You can see in the slide on the desk, this is a setup that I actually did for my son because now that the device is a learning space for him, it's no longer something that is for fun. He's always trying to touch the device and because it's an iPad, right? So see, children, especially children with special needs, but there was a question earlier in the Q&A box of the webinar. What do we do with restless children in front of the device when they're distance learning? Firstly, maybe it's too long a time for them to be, so maybe check in on that, check on the World Health Organization guidelines on how long the child should be in front of a device. But you know what? Be more deliberate. So when you're creating the space, I drew two hands on the side of the device for my son. And I always told him, when you're listening, make sure your hands are on the the hands that are, the pictures of the hands that are stuck on the table. I drew huge eyes and I put them on top of each device that he needed to look at, because my son has a difficult time connecting and looking people in the eye because of his autism. So now we have this added difficulty of a device. So these are just examples of how you can be more deliberate. This is not just going to be an issue for children who have special needs. You are going to have children like this in your classroom when they start in July or August. So I think these are tips and hacks that you can think of as a teacher to make the flow in the homes for your parents much easier. Because once you do that, you'll be able to engage the help of your parents. You'll be able to engage your parents because you're providing them a safe space. You said that earlier in the chat, one of you said feeling supported. If you give them, spend time on this before the school year starts. Spend time on giving them tips to learn how to learn, to make it easier to create learning spaces like you see in the photo. I guarantee you that your job as a teacher will be much easier. Next slide, please. Okay, so we need to feel connected by Creo, but we need to feel connected. Social distancing has really taken away the opportunity for us to connect physically. So we have had to adjust the learning. We have had to adjust to learning how to connect with each other over a device. We can get caught up in making sure we get through the lessons for the day. We get so caught up in learning outcomes. We get so caught up in creating our online activities. We get so caught up in and focused on doing everything that we need to deliver, right? But we might be forgetting that the most important part of this learning journey is making the connections. This is my favorite picture of my son, because not only is he looking at the big eyes, I so creatively made for him, but he was going near the screen. And for me, that was very important. For any teacher, I think that is your reward for the day. Because once your child is actually going close to the screen and wanting to be with you, you know that he or she is wanting to connect. We cannot engage people if we do not connect. We cannot have a relationship with anybody or engage anyone if we don't connect. So learning really begins with connection. This is true for school teams as well. I felt that in our school. It's so hard not to be able to meet your teammates or your teacher mates or your admin or your team members in your school setting physically. So many times it's very difficult to connect now. So I would, as an administrator, talking to you and for all school leaders out there who are in the audience tonight, I would spend a lot of time really making sure that your team connects with each other, because that is the only way that we are all going to be able to survive this in the next 10 months. Okay, so next. Safe spaces are places where we are heard. Every member of your village needs to be heard. In these challenging times, we have to make an effort to allow conversations about feelings. Feelings need to flow, even online. Make sure that there are clear rules for the children about making sure everyone is heard. So simple things like making sure that the mic is off, that when you are actually wanting to say something, then you can raise your hand. Why is this so important? Firstly, basic logistics. When everyone's mic is on, you know that there's so much feedback. If there's an electric fan in the room, that's all that you can hear. See, but the true challenge here is, and I tell myself, what are we all learning? Like Coach Kimmy said, we're all here. There's no accident. There's no accident why we were all gathered here tonight. So when situations like that and teaching moments happen like that in our classroom, I think to myself, why is this happening? What is it trying to teach us? See, the bigger picture here is we are teaching our children how to truly listen. You may think that just because the mics are off, there's no chance to talk. No, because in the classroom, we're actually all talking at the same time, and it's so hard to zone in on the child that really wants to be heard. But with this new platform that we have, it's actually great because we can zone in on every single child every single day and say, the mic is yours. I want to hear it. How do you feel today? So really, nothing is ever too trivial to unmute your mic for. You have to create rules and routines for this, but I think holding the space and giving the children the space to actually be heard is the most valuable gift you can give them while online learning. Parent questions are never too trivial also. See, it's not, parents are coming into this whole process from very, very different perspectives. There's your techie parent, there's your tita parent, just like me in the beginning, who had to learn all of this really quickly. There is your parent who is very averse to technology. So please, as teachers, I'd like you all to think of that also and put yourselves in their shoes. As administrators, I would like you to also, and I implore you and I beg of you, to also look at your teachers as your inclusive classroom. Differentiate your instruction for your teachers because it's not easy for all teachers. Raise your hand if it wasn't easy for you. Yes, there you go, Catherine. Oh, sorry, it's Teacher Casey. I am a tita teacher. But you know what? The great thing about this, it is pushing us out of our comfort zones. And if we looked at each other as differentiated learners, we're all different learners, we can create this huge, gigantic world classroom where we're all learning and we're all being inclusive and we're all holding hands on this journey. So really, in these challenging times, we have to make an effort to allow conversations for feelings. It's very easy to disregard emotions at a time like this because you're probably saying, let's get on with the lesson. We only have so and so minutes. But I would spend a majority of your morning meetings really talking about feelings. It changes over time and it gives the children really a venue to let out how they're feeling. In the picture on the slide, my son had a bad morning because, sorry, the previous slide, he was showing his teacher, actually his ABA therapist, that his tooth was moving. We only had 30 minutes because we only have 30 minutes for his ABA sessions. But what did Teacher Marvin do on this day? He spent a good 10 minutes really talking to my son and telling my son, show me your tooth. How is it feeling? Can you move it for me? Because my son needed to let his feelings be heard by this person who was very important to him. So once emotions are not bad behaviors, emotions are real, emotions are not wrong. It's what you do with the emotions that make them wrong or how you respond to it. But there is no wrong emotion. So these emotions and these feelings have to be honored. So spend majority, please, of your first few months really teaching the children to have a vocabulary for emotions and talking about this online. So the next slide will show you again just really simple ways that you can show the children that you are open to this. You are holding the space for them. You are telling them we can talk about this. It's a part of the routine. Next slide, please. Safe spaces are places and spaces where you are supported. When one feels supported, one is most likely to stay and one is most likely to engage. This goes for a student, this goes for a teacher, this goes for a parent. Hear, acknowledge, and respond to everything that your student is trying to say to increase engagement. Hear, acknowledge, and respond to everything that your parents have to say to increase engagement. Again, hear, acknowledge, and respond to everything that your teachers have to say to acknowledge engagement. Because for us to get through the next 10 months, we all have to be engaged in this journey that we're in. So make sure to find ways to nurture your team as well. Talk about experiences with your own school parents and their questions, and try to be able to walk in their shoes as a parent for a while. There is no such thing as a stupid question. Because during these times, our lives are filled with many questions and a lot of things don't make sense. So if you have parents and if you have caregivers and if you have family members who have questions, please encourage them to ask it. Because if you don't feel like you're being heard or you're being supported, then you are most likely not to engage, and you need them to engage. We need to keep in mind that we all come into this from different starting points. Student, parent, family, caregiver, teacher, admin, directress, we all are crucial parts of this village. So, brain breaks, nurture breaks, they're not just for the students, they're for everyone. So this is a picture of my son doing a brain break because his teacher knows that maybe 10 minutes in front, asking him to perform and asking him to answer needs a brain break. And who else needs a nurture break? Parents need that. So if you're an administrator and if you're a teacher, make that part of your program this year. Give the parents an opportunity to have their brain breaks, to have their nurture breaks. See, schools are closed, yes, and it sucks. It really sucks. It is so bad that we cannot be together physically. But there is a gift in this lockdown, and there is a gift in online learning. It is forcing us now to look at our well-being. Because if we were physically in school, we wouldn't actually focus on our well-being and nurturing ourselves. But now that we have to do this, we are forced to do this. So that's the great thing about it. Next slide, please. Safe spaces are spaces where children and we are accepted and included. The sooner we model inclusivity, patience, kindness, and understanding with each other, the sooner we create safe spaces for our whole village. Luis is in class with his classmates, and many times it's very overwhelming for him, my son, because there's too many people on the screen. A lot of the children answer out loud. My son cannot answer out loud. So the great thing about this is his teachers have made ways for him to be able to answer, whether it's a thumbs up, whether it's mama writing the answer down and him holding it up. But see, if a child doesn't feel accepted and included, then he doesn't feel like he wants to engage. But because they can see him, you get what I mean? When they can see him, not that he's invisible or anything, but because he can't talk, sometimes he might not be seen, but the teacher will find a way for him to be able to respond. Inclusive classrooms are not just physical classrooms. Now we have to make our online classrooms more inclusive. They make room for all kinds of learners, even online. My experience with Luis and his school is really something that I appreciate so much because the teachers really make an effort. The last thing we all need now is the pressure to be perfect and to perform. What we need is the pressure to connect, to be respected, and to respect the other person on the other end of the screen. And once we start learning to do that, then our learning journey becomes easier. Next slide, please. Humor. That is very, very important because humor is the great equalizer. The great equalizer, really. Again, remember, everybody out there, I'm going to keep it simple. Fun over perfection. Meet my feet puppets. Their names are Kachi and Chas. This is actually a picture from after class. So when the children already left the Zoom meeting, we have some children who are very clingy, who actually wait for the after class because then it's more relaxed. They can take their devices around the school, around their homes, and they can say, "Can I show you my new toy?" And then they'll go to their room and then they'll set down the laptop and then they'll show us their toys. So it's really like a play group after class. And I really, really, really look forward to this because it's like I'm at home with them playing. So today, we had to wear socks because we had to pretend we were skiing during class on this day. So I decided I am going to draw faces on my feet and put it up on the screen and make foot puppets. I so needed this that day. I was stuck in planning for the following school year. I was stuck in trying to tweak and fix our framework for the year. I was stuck in everything administration does, from our rent to our Meralco to everything that we really had to do behind the scenes for the school. I needed to take this break. I needed to put up my feet and draw faces on my feet and see the smiles on the children's faces while I was doing it. We sang Itsy Bitsy Spider with my feet. We sang Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars with my feet. I had forgotten what it was to really enjoy the moment. And I was grateful that I actually found the inspiration to do it, because not only did it make these little kids happy, it made me happy. So that was my self-care for the day, was doing something funny. So I think this is really something that you should remember. You don't have to be perfect online. You don't even have to look perfect online. I'm wearing shorts today, just a dressy top, because I'm I'm in a webinar. But see, you don't have to be perfect. It's fun over perfection. So if today you want to throw out your lesson plan for the day, I encourage you to do that. Because we always tell our teachers in school, if the children do not feel good about themselves, they are not going to learn well. And you can see that in their faces. Ramdam na ramdam mo yan when you see their faces online. So if you see a child or two children who actually are not having a good morning, then you know what? Throw out your learning goals for the day. Put up your feet. Put socks on. Kasi pag ang ginagamit mo ay permanent marker, mahirap iskoba ang permanent marker off your talampakan. But do something crazy and do something funny. Okay, and next. Safe spaces are where children feel loved. I am not very strict about telling the kids, you have to have a table, of course, because we are early childhood. Of course, when my 13-year-old son goes to school in August and he will be learning online, I have to make sure that he has a desk and a chair. But this is early childhood. These are children who want to be carried and cuddled, and they want to sit on your lap. So why do I feel, and again to Attorney Yen, I'd like to tell you, I got permission from my parents to actually post this picture. So I love this little girl. She comes to class every morning. We start at 9, but she's online by 8:45. She is waiting for us to let her into the Zoom session. She's prepared with her snacks. She is ready. She stands up to get her own snacks and then comes back to the camera, in front of the device to listen. On certain days, she'll bring her bottle of milk and she will lie down like this with a pillow. So she's sideways the whole time. Why do I love this picture? Always, always look for measures of when the child feels most comfortable. And when your student is in front of the camera and drinking a bottle of milk and lying down and listening to you, believe me, she actually is muting and unmuting. She actually is communicating, but she's doing it in a very relaxed position. Being in constant communication with parents about learning at home and feedback is key. So when I told her mom that she would do this, she said, "Oh my gosh, I think I should actually maybe give her a better school setup, table and chairs." I said, "No, keep her that way first, because these 2 months is boot camp for the kids. They're learning how to learn online. So let her do this because she's feeling comfortable." And why is this my picture for safe spaces are filled with love? Because she is drinking her milk. That is the most natural thing for a little toddler like her to do. So for her to lie down and drink her milk and be nurtured by us online I know that there is love that's going through the screen and covering her, and there is love in her eyes as she's looking at all of us across the screen. So this is why after class, I will spend another maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes with her, with our other teachers who also love her, because she's so excited. She's so excited to show us her little brother taking a bath, which Attorney Yen might frown upon. She's so excited to show us her snacks in the cabinet in her kitchen, what she's going to eat. Sometimes she'll show us what's for breakfast. So see, this is actually the safe space that you want to create for the children. This is what we should strive for. Next slide, please. So again, my recap would be, it's all about the connection. I chose these two pictures because these are pictures from my real life. These are pictures from my experience as a mother and as a teacher. So on the right is a picture of my student with her father, who also works from home. But because she is so involved, and because, and you probably say, mothers are probably the ones who guide the children while they're learning, because that's how the setup is. But you know what? Her father works from home, but her father actually was so engaged because the children are engaged. The children are safe. We have a lot of dialogues with the parents. I send photos of her during class. So they feel like they are actually connected and they're actually there. So when you feel that invitation to actually be part of the process. So we have this chance now to create this village and to create this village that inspires family engagement. And family engagement actually is such a great predictor of student success, learning outcomes. The other picture on the left is a picture of me with a new speech therapist of my son and our OT. And again, I got permission to post this picture. I posted this because this is actually an excerpt from my real life this past week. And why is it important? It's because my son is not very verbal, so that's a challenge. And with the pandemic, I realized that we will not have physical speech classes or speech sessions with the speech path for a long time. So that scares me as a parent. But I feel comfortable enough to share this with his teachers. And I feel comfortable enough to share this with his program leader, Teacher Rizzi. So we sat down and we talked about ways that actually we could work together to inspire my Luis to talk more. And I made it a point to celebrate his speech path. We had just actually met that day. And I made it a point to celebrate him and say, Teacher Pau, I appreciate your energy. I appreciate your calm. I appreciate your voice. I appreciate your patience. That really you have never met my son and you only met him today, but somehow you knew that he would not appreciate being rushed. He would appreciate your calm voice and he would appreciate your patience. This kind of communication between parent and teacher or parent and therapist is very crucial at this time. If we don't engage families this way, our work as teachers and as educators will be very hard this year. We check in on each other. I send photos of my son when we're doing drills at home. They tell me what else I can do at home. So I know it's really difficult to do this and it's probably added work. But like my last and final slide will show you, Mikey, next slide please. We have to make an effort to go the extra mile. That extra one-on-one session, that short message to find out how a child or a parent is doing, that link that you share with the family that you know is trying to figure out their learning space, that link about creating bedtime routines, that link you saw or that YouTube video you saw while surfing the net on your free time, that actually is something you felt, this is going to help John or this is going to help Paloma. That going the extra mile to actually share this with your families is very important. Make the effort to think ahead and put yourself in their shoes. Send a week at a glance on a Saturday so that families can plan for the upcoming week and lay out their days. These are just mommy hacks and teacher mama hacks I'm sharing with you that I so appreciate as a parent. I told my son's teacher, Teach, ganito na lang. On a Saturday, gawa tayo ng week at a glance. Because I need to predict my week for the week. I need to know when I go online with our school. I need to know when we do homeschooling with my son. I need to know when speech therapy is and when all of that is. But I also need to know when his homework and stuff is due in the Google Classroom. Why is that? I also need predictability. I also need a routine. I also need to know what to expect. Because in essence, all of us have a little bit of specialness in us. We need that kind of predictability. And in times like this, in a pandemic and being stuck at home and working from home, we need to look at ourselves and put ourselves in the shoes of our kids. If it makes us feel calm and secure, then it's going to make them feel calm and secure tenfold. So make the extra mile, go the extra mile, be more deliberate. As schools and admins, make this year the time that you actually are so involved in the learning of your whole community that your parents and your teachers and your students will not forget the relationships that you made with them this year, how it became stronger, how it became more connected, how it was the kind of relationship where you actually went the extra mile. So the more deliberate that we are in planning, the easier it will be for everyone in the system. Again, keep it simple, keep it positive, keep an open mind. Going above and beyond inspires engagement. When we go above and beyond, we nurture our well-being, the well-being of everybody, and the well-being of our whole village. I love this word, this Filipino word, and diba they say that really malasakit has no equal in the English language. It's not really care, it's not really concern, kasi bitin eh, malasakit. Filipino tayo, meron tayong abilidad para magmalasakit. And we are Filipino teachers. So that's the great thing about who we are. Kaya natin to. So we have to go that extra mile kasi kaya natin. Because when we go the extra mile, you spread that positivity around and it will surely come back to you. So honestly, if you go the extra mile, it's the best life lesson we can give our children, and it's the only way we can all get through this together. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Teacher Michelle. My goodness. You know, there's a reason why Creo invites you again and again, because what you teach us is just so personal and we can all relate to it, and it's so meaningful. And I think it's a message that everyone needs to hear. I'm sure all of you, I hope all of you will agree that this was time well spent. I hope that you go back to your work, to your communities, with this renewed sense of purpose, that you will try to ensure your own well-being so that you can ensure the well-being of others. And you can also commit to working with everyone in your community. You know, even the parents who are sometimes hard to love, but you know, deep down inside, they really are lovable. There really is something that you can connect with, that you can relate with. After all, they're just concerned about their kids. So I hope we change some minds tonight also about parent engagement, about family and community involvement. I'd like to appreciate you. I'd like to thank you again. We would like to wish you all the best. Please stay safe, stay well. God bless you, your children, the work of your hands, your words even. And we hope that you can also be a blessing. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.